Twitter, 140 characters. That is all you've got on Twitter. In fact, you've got 120 characters. Chantal does some brilliant marketing tips on Twitter. Okay, her Twitter name is @topmarketingtip. Okay, which is probably about 15 characters long. I want to share her updates with all of my contacts. Okay, so I've got 5,000 people that I want to share Chantal's updates with because they're fab. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go into Chantal update that I want to share, and I want to click this button that says RT. Okay, it will retweet. Okay, don't worry too much about the terminology. I only have 140 characters. Yep. So what happens when I RT that is it goes RT space @topmarketingtip, because it always says where the original tweet came from. Okay, and then it gives her tweet. Yeah, with me so far? If her tweet is 140 characters long, my whole tweet, RT space @topmarketingtip, her tweet, is 160 characters long. At which point I said to myself, very politely, Chantal, please don't keep doing this. I have two choices. I can send that tweet and the last 20 characters will be cut off, which may be the bit that actually Chantal wanted people to know about. Not necessarily, no, but it may have been. Or I can go in and edit the tweet and take out 20 characters. So I'm just not going to bother, I delete it. And it's a real shame because she gives out some really interesting tips. Now, that forwarding business. I wrote a tweet ages ago, a couple of years ago. I stayed at the Hilton Hotel in Leicester, which is just off the motorway, because I was doing some training up there. And they charged me my bed and breakfast, and then they charged me £8.50 parking. Well, I couldn't have got there any other way, because it's just off the motorway. The trains don't run to it. So I just said, I went in the next day, and I just said, I was doing a Twitter workshop anyway, so I put out there, I was surprised to be charged extra for parking last night at the Hilton. Wasn't particularly negative, but it was just a comment. At the time, I had about 2,000 followers. So that tweet went out to 2,000 followers. 2 of those followers forwarded that tweet to their followers with a suitable comment. So within 5 minutes, that tweet had gone out to about 10,000 people. Hilton weren't listening, and they never bothered to come back. Now, I won't stay at Hilton because of that. So they've lost me as a customer. I know it's very petty, but I just thought it was petty on their side. And I tell that story in my book and in every single Twitter workshop I ever do. They should have been listening. Just as an example of the power of Twitter. Yeah, and I was doing a Twitter workshop the other day, and I said on my, again, I had about 5,500 followers, say hi to my Twitter newbies. Sometimes when I do that, I don't get anyone because nobody's listening. On this particular occasion, I had 10 people come back and say, oh, you'd have a fab time. So 10 individual people that had been on my Twitter workshop came back and told all their followers that they thought the Concise Training Workshop was brilliant. That's pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. Not solicited, I just said say hi. I didn't say, can you tell everybody how wonderful I am? Quite powerful stuff. Twitter is public. Whatever you say on Twitter will be seen by anybody on Twitter. Okay? So if you want to say something personal, like, I'm going on holiday to America next week, and while you're in America, say, I'm really worried about my 16-year-old girl who's home alone. True story. Think about whether that's such a good idea, because everything you say is public. Anthony Lloyd is at Fallowfields Hotel. He started using Twitter around the same time I did, about 2009. And within the first year, he spent hours on Twitter. Okay, I would have been divorced had I spent quite as long as he did on Twitter. But he's that sort of guy. He's a very typical hotelier. I don't know if anyone knows him. He's brilliant customer service. He's into relationships big time. He has stated in the first year on Twitter, he made £100,000 directly through Twitter, because of the relationships he'd built up. It does work, if that's where your audience is. If your audience isn't there, you can be spending a lot of time doing nothing. On Twitter, you should be doing updates about 3 to 5 times a day, okay? So just recapping, LinkedIn once, twice a week, Facebook once a day, probably. Twitter 3 to 5 times a day. They do not have to be real-time feeds. I use a tool called Hootsuite, Hootsuite. TweetDeck is a similar one. Okay? You cannot use Twitter if you use twitter.com. It is a virtual impossibility. If I put my twitter.com up here now, I would get updates, but I normally get about 140 updates a second. You cannot do it. You have to use Hootsuite. Hootsuite or TweetDeck, they allow you to schedule your tweets. So of those 5 tweets, 2 of them at least are scheduled. That means I have worked out what content I'm going to send out ahead of time. Normally it's the tips. In actual fact, what I have done is I've taken my book, which I wrote earlier, I have gone through the book, or I've got somebody else to go through the book and take out 120, 140 little snippets. And we've scheduled those to go for the next 3 months. Twice a day. Okay, reusing content. Those blog posts, reuse the content. You can set your blog posts up so that when you put a new blog post out, it automatically goes out on Twitter. So of those 5, you've got 2 scheduled. Okay, schedule them Monday to Friday or schedule them globally, depending on your audience. Okay, I'm only open Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. So that's the only time I want my tweets to go out. I don't tweet on Christmas Day. You would be surprised. Then you have, so you've got 3 left. Those 3 are going to all be about engagement. One of them may be a real-time tweet. So one of them may be saying what you're doing if it's really interesting, like I've just come back from Oman, I'm really tired and I'm in this workshop and I want to go home. 2 of them are probably going to be engagement. So you're going to be replying to somebody who's mentioned one of your keywords, or you know, or has talked to you. You're going to be retweeting one of your influencers, one of your suppliers, one of your clients, one of your brand ambassadors. Yeah? So remember all those audience groups we went through? You're going to be listening for them talking, and you're going to be engaging with them. If you use tools like Hootsuite or TweetDeck, you can set up lists or columns, so you can group people together. So I have a column called Oxfordshire, for example, and I've got everybody who's in Oxfordshire. Actually, if you look at it, it's a very broad definition of the word Oxfordshire. I've got a few Berkshire people and a few Wiltshire and Buckinghamshire, and it felt like a good idea at the time. But I watch people that are in Oxfordshire. So I know when John says something, because he's in my Oxfordshire list. And every so often I'll retweet it. If somebody retweets you, forwards you, what do you think you should do? Say thank you. That's engagement. Easy engagement. Yeah? It really annoys me when people don't bother saying thank you. Dell, brilliant. Dell set up their social media is integrated into their company, and they send all their staff on social media training. Yes, I've got that there. And Jodie, I've met Jodie once or twice about 4 years ago, and we've had a relationship on Twitter. You know, she's recommended me. We've had a chat. We've talked. Just an example of how you can keep in contact with someone.